again, talking about the conscience or the daemon of Socrates, the muse, if you want to use another word for artists, is how exactly do you know who you're contacting? As John says in his epistles, is that we have to test the spirits. And the way that we test the spirits as Christians is to get them to confess the divinity and reality of Jesus Christ. And so, again, not that they're trying to focus so much on how a Christian would encounter these entities, but with their whole framework that you go into conversation with your conscience, and that this deep-seated level of consciousness and reality is how then you open up, and consciousness can then have a conversation with you. It's like, well, how do you know who you're talking to? We just did streams on the Stargate Project, remote viewing, astral projection. We've done streams on possession, and again, over and over and over, psychedelics. People encounter these noetic entities in the higher noetic realms, but how exactly do you know if the spirit's good or bad, who it's from, again, what's going on? You don't. And so from an Orthodox Christian perspective, you shouldn't just go into transcendental meditation and try to commune with various voices that may emerge that, again, maybe are your own. And how do you know you're not schizophrenic to some degree? Not saying, again, they're obviously using more normative general language here to refer to a healthy person, but I don't know any Orthodox priest that would tell you just to commune with the spirits that or whatever voices are coming to you, because as Orthodox Christians, the logismi, the temptations, the minefield is in your mind. Your imagination is where all these things are happening. And so you need to be very cautious and have much discernment when you're going into these deep realms of the imagination, because this is where you, having noetic faculties and the angels and demons being noetic entities, can come together. And so you don't know, unless you're testing the spirits from a Christian perspective, who exactly you're talking to.
Recommended naming those things.
Oh, you do. You name them. You name them. Yeah. But something happened, and you'll probably see a very Jungian thing in this. And like I said, this is difficult for me to talk about, but I did talk about it already publicly and after Socrates. And I trust
hell of a thing for an introvert to do.
Yes. So I was in the middle of one of these sessions, and an archetypal presence came in and pushed aside all the parts and said, "No, you're going to listen to me." And who are you? And I said, "I'm Hermes."
Oh, yeah.
The god of interpretation, the god of meaning making.
Did he have little winged slippers on him?
So now he's talking to Hermes, the Mercury deity, the wisdom god, whether it be Hermes or Mercury in the Roman tradition. These are wisdom deities that are typically psychopomps. They transgress boundaries. Hermes was the god of thieves because, again, it's the transgression of boundaries, usually associated with writing, language. I did a whole stream on how Hermes is the god of the technological age of the 21st century, because it's all about communication and messages. He's a messenger deity. And that's why, again, Sprint used to have the foot with wings on it, because as Jordan just played a joke, did he have little wing slippers on? It has to do with him being the ultimate messenger, a sort of angelic messenger. So I haven't even watched this yet, but I'm so glad I said what I said before, because now it turns out Vervaeke is having conversations with Hermes.
Well, no, he
messenger of the gods.
He appeared. He very much had a presence of a psychopomp.
Mm-hmm. And when you say appeared, what was the phenomenology? What was happening?
The phenomenology is like the phenomenology of the presence of a mind. Like I have a mind sight into your awareness. Now, what's interesting about these things, and this is again my take, not the IFS people, although I've talked to Mark Lewis at length about this, and he thinks it's a good take. I think of these entities as neither subjective nor objective. I think of them transjective. And I think Hermes is in the domain of relevance, and relevance is neither objective nor subjective, but what binds them together. Right? He's binding the inner and the outer, the upper and the lower, and all of that together. And so it's the sense of a presence, but it's like what Charles Stang talks about, the divine double. It's both you and not you, kind of like the way conscience is, but it has right. I mean, and so I have an ongoing dialogue with Hermes. It's very much.
Is this a presence that you visualize? How do you know of its appearance?
I've had only one sort of vision.
What was the vision like?
The vision was very much, well, I've had, the vision was very much what I later, very much like sort of Michael, the archangel, which is very interesting. And then I've had one of sort of Thoth from Egypt. And
Thoth, many people believe that Thoth was another wisdom deity in the Egyptian context, which gave rise to Hermes Trismegistus, which is the fusion of sort of the Greek pantheon with the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt being fused together with Greek culture. So again, well, I had one with Michael the Archangel. I had one with Thoth. I had one with Hermes. It sounds like demons, bro. It's just...
and Hanuman from the Vedic tradition.
Hanuman is the monkey deity in Hinduism. So if you're not familiar with Hanuman, you can look up. He is a human representation with a monkey's head. He has many cults and devoted followings within various parts of India.
As well as Hermes, from the Greek tradition. And they in the ancient literature, they're often seen as corresponding to each other in some fashion. You understand, I'm treading on this very...
Okay, so what was the consequence of the appearance of this superordinate spirit, arguably superordinate spirit, in the presence of this domain of chaos?
Well, it made it very clear to me that it... I don't want to say it anymore. He wanted to make it very clear that there was a dialogical relationship that needed to be developed and cultivated. And it would be a relationship by which I would cultivate something analogous to Socrates' daemonium. That was the promise that was given.
Oh, that's a good deal.
I think so.
Yeah.
I wonder if that explains his belief in the Silicon sages that AI, and I quote Vervaeke here, would create sages like Jesus Christ, but would be more virtuous than Jesus was. I wonder if this dialogical relationship between him and Hermes is, again, sort of validating many of these what I would consider as a Christian, these missteps leading towards really the inversion of our world. But in so doing, he's so close, he's so adjacent to our worldview, using so much similar terminology, yet the end point is somewhere that's totally different than an understanding of a Bible believing Christian.
Yeah, well, it's dangerous, but so is everything else.
Yeah, excellent things are rare, or we wouldn't pursue them, as Spinoza said. Or we would all pursue them, as Spinoza said. So I found Raf's work on ally work, and I've talked to a bunch of people that have, the kind of practices you can do to enter into this. Anderson Todd, a friend of mine, very helpful around this. And so what became very apparent was that that this daemonium and the way I've internalized Socrates as a sage were very allied to each other, because Socrates also portrayed himself as being metaxu, being between the human and the divine. And then to get to the deep answer to this all started to psychodynamically integrate with the intellectual philosophical realization of the Platonic proposal that human beings are supposed to always hold in tonos, creative tension, Nicholas of Cusa, Heraclitus, our finitude and our transcendence. If we only hold on to our finitude, we fall prey to servitude and despair. If we only hold on to our transcendence, we fall prey to hubris and inflation. But if we can hold the two together, if we are the metaxu between the beast and the god, right, we can properly realize our humanity. And this is what Socrates sees himself. This is how he portrays Eros. This is how he portrays the task of philosophia. And so for me, that Socratic spirit and Hermes as a psychological, dialogical presence have become integrated together. So that's the
answer. Well, that's quite a trip.
Well, I mean,
That's very much like, it's very much the conscious equivalent of a dream.
It's like a dream,
yeah.
But what's intriguing is the Platonic Socratic possibility of it being filled as much with logos as it is with mythos.
What logos, John? Again, you see how he loves to use words that we use, but our logos is the second person of the Trinity, and it's much fuller and much more expansive than Plato's logos, Heraclitus's logos, Aristotle's logos, Stoicism's logos, or even, again, his beloved tradition of Neoplatonism's logos, which is still the first demiurge, the first created thing of the one. Ours is begotten, not created. Yeah, this Hirsch says it's gnostic prattle. It certainly is.